Let's take. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Chakra Way Meditation Podcast. I've got a guest for you today that I think is going to be really entertaining. I'm really looking forward to this chat. Today, I'm talking to Justin Shaw. Sorry, I didn't say your name right. Justin Shaw, with my
Yeah.
teeth back in, who is the author of one of the most brilliant sort of self-help books that I think I've ever read, and I've read a few. It's called Sourcery 101. He is a mystical comedian, a hope dealer, an author. Justin's got quite the story, so welcome. Let's get into it. How are you?
Good, good. I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you. Yeah, and I was just saying before we started to Justin that I've just spent a really happy afternoon, and I kind of didn't want it to finish reading his book. It is the most entertaining, brilliantly written. It's so easy to read, and it is funny and relatable. It's not like many of the spiritual, self-helpy kind of books. It's not the norm. It's quite special. So, were you always a writer, Justin, or was this like, yeah, this is my time to tell my story? How did you get to sit down and write such a big, juicy book?
Yeah, no, there were a lot of events that happened, certainly. I've always been kind of good at creative writing. I've never This is my first book, but I wrote fun stories. Like I wrote a story about my dog and like a day in the life of my dog from my dog's point of view and like how
Mm,
funny it is to what humans must be like. And like I did that when I was in college and like high school and quite a while ago. And just kind of creative writing stuff like that, but short stories and things like that. So I've always enjoyed it. It's kind of my flow, right?
yeah. But
It's
at the beginning of the book, you cite one of your sort of inspirations as Hunter S. Thompson, which I think gives everybody quite the flavor of what your book is like. If they know Hunter S. Thompson, I devoured all of Hunter S. Thompson when I was in my 20s, I guess. Absolutely hysterical, brilliant journalistic writing,
Mhm.
legendary. But and your story is not a million miles apart from that of Hunter S. Thompson, except you found a happy ending, as it were, at the end.
Yes, yes, much happier than he did. Yep, yep.
Mm,
It's gonna turn out much better. But it was, yeah, it's all the kind of stuff I've went through and that's probably why I gravitated towards his writing and him and just it's there's a lot of spiritual brokenness there that was found relief in drugs and alcohol, and
mm,
that was an immediate kind of connection I felt to his writing, and also the comedy. I mean, I've always I grew up in kind of an emotionally suppressive household, and I was alone a lot. Like the vast majority of my childhood was spent
mhm,
alone in my room,
mhm,
which meant there's a lot of pop culture, American pop culture in the book, and there's a lot of humor because that's what made me feel good, alone in my room so much. It was just kind of me and my
yeah,
mom, and she had her own issues, and her form of depression and anxiety meant she was, isolated a lot. And so, if we were at home, we were kind of in our rooms, and we'd go
mm,
out and do things together. We'd go out to eat, or like she'd take me places, and that would kind of be it. But then we'd be in alone in our rooms again. So, but I grew up in front of a TV. That the TV was not just, not just a babysitter; it was a full blown parent. So, I just connected a lot with everything in pop culture because that was what brought me out of how I was feeling at the time. So
yeah,
just a lot of the comedy, Saturday Night Live at the time, which was the early '90s with Adam Sandler and David Spade and Chris Farley, and like I just was obsessed with it. And Jim Carrey was at the top of his game, and all these things of kind of that time period. And I realized I was good at impressions. I could take these impressions and then do them for people, and it was really entertaining. And I could
yeah,
kind of do my voices and things like that. And we were talking about the audiobook, which is it's fun. I get to do a lot of the voices I do, but that was what kind of brought me out of it. So and then the drugs and alcohol came in, and that kind of took over for a while.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's not uncommon for kids who have, that sort of it's I don't know, it's one could call it the trauma of abandonment, I suppose. But back in those days, parents, yeah, they were dysfunctional themselves. They had their own demons to deal with. But yeah, the television and pop culture was, and it sounds like it was kind of everything to you. And
Mhm.
so then you got onto the comedy circuit. How did that happen? Was that before the drugs and alcohol or during, or when did that, how
Oh
did
yeah,
that
that
all?
was that was right in the middle of it all. Like I kind
Mm,
of had a calling for comedy and ever since I was a kid, and in high school I was like, boy, it'd be fun to try it out and to do, what these guys are doing, and Saturday Night Live or comedy and stand up. And so, I wanted to go to college and kind of get that whole experience. But after college, that's when I went to LA. And but college is where the drugs and alcohol kind of got ragingly out of hand. I barely graduated. Like I don't know how, and if you don't believe in miracles, I graduated. That's there's something out there guiding us. But I went to LA, and that's when things just really got completely out of hand. I mean, my stand-up comedy career was all of, like a few open mics and like bars and clubs around there. And it really wasn't, I never got paid or anything. And it just, I was, in order to be a stand-up comedian, you need to make it through a set standing up, right? Like, and I was doing so many drugs, it just was not, that was not something I could commit to on a nightly basis. So
mm,
it never amounted to much, but it's because by the time I got sober in kind of my late 20s and early 30s, I just didn't want to do that scene. That scene is not wasn't healthy for me to be around. You get on stage at 10 o'clock and there's drinking everywhere, and people are it's just
it's
not
tough.
it's not
Yeah.
it's not this. So I just gave up on it. It was just like, okay, that's not I don't want to live the life of a comedian. I don't That's not a life for me.
Mm,
So it's fun now because I get to use all those skills I already have, and now instead of just making people laugh, I want to make them think and feel too. So you can't go to a comedy club and start your set with a meditation. That's not, they are there to laugh, and that's it.
yeah.
You're, make me laugh, clown. And
Hmm.
I want, I want to do kind of stand up philosophy. Like but I want to make it funny. And so, and I don't want to go on stage at 10 o'clock at night, and we don't need alcohol. So, like
Mm,
the direction I'm kind of guiding my life now is the book was kind of the seed I want to make into the career tree. And I'm trying to guide it to kind of create
yeah.
something all new.
Yeah. I mean, I guess instead of being a comedian, stand-up comedian, you can be a speaker who's really entertaining and funny. Like that's the
Yeah.
best of all worlds, isn't it? Where you get to talk. So let's get into your journey of recovery and what led you. So when did you begin to kind of understand this mystical stuff? Because your book I love it's called Sourcery 101, but it's sorcery spelled as in the source,
Mhm.
Source. Um, so it's really connecting to source energy. It's everything that, I love, all that you're talking about. It's all about, the wounds of limiting beliefs, all of the stuff that we all are working through and working on. So was that as a result of your rehab journey, or when did that piece really start to land for you?
Yeah, that was that. That's a good one to talk about too, because it's so the first well, my first rehab was a complete disaster. And for anyone out there, like, that might be struggling with addiction, I thought, just get me clean, get my body clean, and I'll be fine. I won't want to use anymore. The whole reason I want to use drugs and alcohol is because I can't get through these withdrawals, right? So
Mm,
the first time I went, and I wasn't interested in any of the spiritual. I was like, I'm fine. I just need to get my body clean. And so that lasted about 3 months. So the second time I went was like, okay, there's something more to this. I understand that now. It's more than just getting your body clean, because that lasted all of 3 months, and I'm actually surprised it even lasted that long. Um, and so I decided, okay, all right, I need to do this spiritual route. In the rehab I went to it was a kind of a Christian based, faith based, and so that I kind of did that on purpose. And I was trying to figure, because I didn't know a lot about anything. I didn't wasn't active in, growing up in a lot of Sunday school or anything like that. So and AA and Christianity kind of went together. So I
mm,
was like, all right, well, let's try this out. And and for a while it worked. And but there's just so many things, and one of the points I get through in the book is that the world is such a world of gray, and the Christianity is something that can be both helpful and destructive. There's the,
I
two
really liked that
two
section about religion. I thought it was so intelligently explained and clearly explained about the whole, yeah, about religion and how it can, there are parts of it that are incredibly helpful, but there are also parts of it that are incredibly the opposite of
Yeah.
unhelpful. Yeah, incredibly unhelpful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, destructive. I mean,
It's,
so I learned, yeah,
yeah.
and the whole, so I got through. I realized that Christianity through my kind of, I get, it got me sober, but I kind of got sober and was like, okay, now I'm sober. Now what? Now, like,
Mm,
there's no guidance, and like what I created. There's a lot of focus on thriving. There's healing and thriving, and find your bliss, and but there's none of that in AA, and it's because it's religion is kind of that, keep people down, don't let people know what they actually are. And so it was, Christianity is like this big, beautiful house, right? There's 14 bedrooms and 9 bathrooms, and there's a pool inside, and there's a movie theater. It's great inside the mansion, but you're not allowed to go and investigate outside of the mansion because they tell you, well, it's death out there. It's zombie apocalypse. There's a pandemic. It's just you're gonna die if you go out there, and you can't come back in if you go out there. And so I was strictly that that Christian, like scared of other things, right? Because I was so
yeah.
programmed in there, like scared to go there. Even like meditation is kind of like, oh, yoga and meditation is like, oh, that's getting to that's getting outside the mansion. So
Mm,
but I realized that mansion is built on a cracked foundation of fear and judgment. And I realized that when my mother was terminally ill, and this is when things kind of started changing, because I spent the whole last year of her life when I was watching her body dwindle away, her mind dwindle away, and the whole time, that's traumatic enough. But what was playing in my mind was all these pastors, she's going to hell because she didn't go to church. She wasn't Christian. And so therefore,
mm.
she's going to hell, which made the trauma of her death just extremely
It's,
difficult.
yeah,
It's just horrible.
yeah.
So, today it would be more like the shepherd in the afterlife. I'm like, Mom, it's going to be so much fun. It's like taking off a tight shoe. You're going to be out of pain. It's fine. But that was not me at all. So
Mm,
that's when things started. That's when I decided to just, I'm done with this whole thing. This helped for a while, but it is now doing the opposite.
mm,
So I hired a shaman to come in, and he helped me more in 2 weeks than therapy and pills and the medical community and AA and Christianity did for 20 years. And so I started meditating, and this is when the things really started to change. I had what I can best to be described as a bliss attack. After I was doing some shadow work and meditation, and started, really questioning things from my childhood, and, beliefs that the Christianity had put in me, beliefs from my childhood, all these things. I started questioning the reality and seeing that might not be actually true, these beliefs I held so tightly.
mm,
And as I'm going through that, it was just one day, and it was sober at the time. I was still kind of going back and forth between, alcohol and some drugs, but I'd been sober for about 3 or 4 weeks. And at that point, and I had a bliss attack. I went to the gym that day, and I came home, and I was stretching, and this overwhelming sense of love. It was like I've had panic attacks my whole life from
mm,
anxiety and depression and all kinds of things, and it was like if you replace panic with love. And it was 3 hours of this just insane feeling of just the best feeling in the world. And no drug has ever come close to this feeling. And at the same time, I'm getting these downloads, best way to describe it,
yeah.
downloads of just, and I knew these were truths at the time because of how I was feeling. I'd never,
Mm,
like, there's no technical reason to be feeling this way. And I'm getting all these, but kind of the illusionary nature of reality, and how religion is just is separating us, and that there is no separation. It's all one, all these things
Mm.
were coming to me all at once, to the point where I like had to say out loud, like slow down. There was too much for me
Oh, wow.
to intake at that time. I said out loud, like, "Ooh, slow down." And so this experience made me realize that I've been on airplane mode my whole life. I think we are, a phone perpetually in airplane mode is not living up to its potential, right? So, I think all children are off airplane mode, and somewhere, in late childhood, in 8, 9, 10, airplane mode gets turned on by society and it just stays on.
Yeah.
But I realized that it can be turned off, and once it's turned off, it stays off, and that's the beautiful part. You can't turn it back on. I kind of went through some struggles there where I was trying to turn it back on. I was like, I had a couple years of, this was about 4 years ago, this bliss attack, and I had about 2 years to where I was trying to turn it back off, and I was struggling back and forth with drugs and alcohol, and I had a lot of trauma happening at that time, a lot of death and grief and things happening that I was dealing with not in a healthy way. But I realized that, I could, in about 2 years ago is when it came to me that, like, okay, I need to get this together. There's a whole system of how to do this. And it kind of came to me, this sorcery, the 13 rung thing, and how this is my new focus in
Mm.
life, is to write this book and to go this route and to help people. The patient needs to step up and to be the physician, and that's that's
Mm.
that's where I'm at now,
Yeah, well, I
certainly.
mean, you are in a very powerful position of having lived experience of all of of all of it to help others who are, behind you. And that's what, everybody in this sort of energy healing, sort of opening the eyes community is trying to do is just, reach out, hold somebody else's hand, bring them into the circle, bring them into this understanding. And that's the best work and the most fulfilling work is just helping people understand that they can be more than they're told that they should be or could be
Mhm.
in terms of their inner life. And so you've got 13 chapters. So have you got like you said that well, I don't know, I mean, there's 12 steps in A. Did those influence you in any way? What are your steps? Because you said that, I wanted to put out these steps and I've read the first couple of chapters, but I should have gone back and like really read the titles of the chapters. But so give me a few of
Yeah, I
those.
could. Yeah, I could name. So
Go
first of
on.
all, yeah, the sorcery, the idea of, becoming a sorcerer. It's spelled with a U to distance itself, from wizards, and I can't promise you're going to become. I don't think, it's possible that kind of, sorcery magic, but I can't promise I'm going to make you Merlin or Gandalf. But source, so source with a U, source energy, and it is about tapping into these rungs, working them. So they're like, sorcery is, the source energy is like, it's like explaining water to a fish, which is difficult to do. If you explain, like, well, it surrounds you, you live because of it, you're here, everything is because of water. And a fish would have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But that is the energy that surrounds us at all times. That is that
Yeah.
source
Source
energy.
energy. Yeah.
And so I created this thing. So I was in AA, and the 12 steps were, because I had all this information, right? These downloads and things, and I had to figure out how to get this, like, so that it made sense and that it would put in some kind of order. And I thought
Mm.
about the 12 steps, and I thought, well, moving forward is good, but moving up is better, because a bird has a better perspective on things than a worm. So rungs instead of steps. And they're not as rigid as kind of the A steps, one, two, like, it's the A is very rigid. And so this is
Yeah.
more,
You have to complete one step before you can do the next
yeah,
step
yeah,
kind
this
of
is very
vibe. Yeah.
fluid. They're not like that at all. I didn't want it to be. I don't like the rigidity of AA and religion. And 13 was the number that was like, I wasn't just trying to outdo them. 13 is extremely important, because it's, it is here in America. 13 is so unlucky that hotels don't have 13 floors. Like,
Mm.
they do. They call it the 14th floor, but
Yeah.
it's known as such an unlucky number that they won't have 13th floors, which is ridiculous because in tarot, which is the whole idea of a sorcerer, is death, rebirth, and transformation. It is the number of transformation, and it is actually an extremely lucky number, and is a divine number.
Mm.
And so immediately that number 13, I want people to start thinking about maybe beliefs that they hold that aren't maybe so true,
Yeah,
like
it's
the
like
number
why on
13.
earth would you believe? Why would just because you've been told that the number 13
Hmm.
is unlucky,
Hmm.
you've got this mad suspicion and you freak out on what basis? On what evidence?
Yeah, yeah.
It's you're absolutely right. And there's so much, and you can use that same argument in a lot of other ways, not just about the number 13, but just your core beliefs. You believe this thing and you think it's terrifying to, you know, Friday the 13th. Oh my God, there's been a film, on what basis? Same for your beliefs, same for your patterns, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, there's kind of things that go back that they think, they're like the 13. They were saying like there were 13, people at Jesus's last summer and supper, and
Yeah.
Judas was considered the 13th person or something, and so that, but that makes no sense, and that's part of, so like it's all bullshit, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just it's crap. So immediately that number, I want people to start thinking about, like, start questioning beliefs, because beliefs are everything, everything. Our
Mm.
perception of the world, our beliefs, it's how we create and, find ourselves, and it's that questioning and that shadow work that's the first rung, is that shadow work. But yeah, I think I can name all of them. Did you want me to name them? You can like pick out a
No,
couple, or
I want to kind of delve into the sort of the flow of it and your reasoning and your kind of your I guess what I'm always interested is in people's tools in your modalities of because for me I use the chakras as a map for the energy of the body for understanding the self and then yoga and meditation, all very lovely wholesome things. And but I talk to people who are all energy workers and everybody's got a slightly different way around it. Now we all end up at the same place. The path leads on various different landscapes, but we all end up at the same place of where we want to be. This sort of peaceful, enlightened, I don't know, whatever state where we feel at home in ourselves. We feel are living our authentic lives. Anyway, we all have different routes to get there. I want to know what your route is. That's what I'm getting at, I
to
think.
get to like to
To
get
the
to
under
here, like.
to get to the place of understanding so that you are so you feel in control of your life, so you don't feel that your life controls you or your thoughts control you, that you are um that you're in charge of your own destiny, that you can say, yeah, I have the tools with which to heal stuff when the shit hits the fan, when stuff happens. I know how to cope with it. I'm not going to freak out.
Mhm.
I'm not going to succumb to the old patterns of anxiety or stress or depression or overeating or whatever it is that your coping mechanism has been. Getting to a place where you're like, yeah, I can see that for what it was, and now I'm kind of through that, and I have enough knowledge and understanding in my body and in my mind and my spirit to be able to deal with life in a balanced way.
Yeah, yeah, and then and that's why I made the book, because there's a lot of things, right? Like
Yeah.
there isn't just one thing that has, brought me such healing and joy. It's there, and that's why I kind of made the rungs, because there's so many things to get into, and so I've created kind of a map, because there's not one thing I could say. Meditation is, that's it, that's the key, but it's not.
It's
There's a
not.
lot. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, and
But it's
there's so
different
much
for
I
everybody
do.
as well. It's so
Hmm.
different for everybody, and everybody's going to find a modality that like clicks for them and a way and a language and a tone. Everybody's got to find the person or the thing or the method that like that's mine. That's the one that resonates. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, and there's a lot of understanding, in human behavior. Kind of there's that in there. Obviously meditation. Treating the body. It is the mind, body, spirit, right? It is that trifecta, and that's the problem we have in the kind of medical Western approach to medicine. And it's what I want to get out there. And, I talk about that earlier in the book, that there's, medicine and doctors, they're both, very helpful and can be destructive at the same time, because they understand, acute injuries very well, but chronic injuries, and there's a lot of various diseases that are labeled as chronic. There's
Hmm.
addiction and depression and anxiety, and a lot of there's physical ones like autoimmune disorders, but they really have no idea. And without treating all three things, the mind, body, and spirit, they'll never be cured, and nor do they want to cure, because honestly, a cured individual lines no one's pockets. So
Exactly.
they're gonna be treating symptoms, and that's how
Mm.
they're gonna be doing things. They're gonna be
Yeah.
treating those symptoms and focusing only on the symptoms. It's like if once a month, 100 people had a lunch, and every single month 90 of those people got violently ill. The Western medicine approach would be to dole out medicine pills to 90 of those people without looking into the core issue, which would be the quality of the food being served, right? Like, so that's that kind of spiritual bankruptcy. And
Yeah.
it's not to say, there's anything wrong with the medical community, but the truth is, if I fall down, and if I fall off a ladder and I've got a bone sticking out of my arm, that's not an appropriate time for meditation. Acupuncture is not going to do a whole lot in that moment.
Hmm.
Like, so there is, but you need to go to a doctor and get that set. They know what they're doing when it comes to the body. But once the doctor does his part, or her part, and it's set, and it's the body that heals itself, right? Like,
Mm.
the doctor's part is now done. The body will
Yeah.
heal itself. And what we don't understand for trauma, and trauma just sits in our frontal lobe and affects our entire life, and no one has any idea what to do with it. Well, it's
Yeah.
setting the emotional bone. You have to set the emotional slash spiritual bone and let the body heal itself. And that's what no one has any idea how to do that. And so that's what this whole system I'm out to do, is to help people set the emotional bone, and let the body heal itself. And it will do that, because it's happened with me. And there's never a point in which, completely healed is not. You're going to have a scar, but a scar
Hmm.
is a lot better than a gaping wound, because if you have that same
Yeah.
injury and you don't do anything about it, it's going to be sore, and it's going to be a problem the rest of your life. Someone's going to touch it, and
Yeah.
and that's trauma for us, right? Someone touches it and we have this guttural, horrible reaction. And
Yeah.
so it's extremely important to kind of learn that we can reset the emotional bone, but there's stuff we
Mm.
have to do that is not comfortable. I mean, when you
Yeah.
cross the river of change, you're going to face a massive undercurrent of discomfort throughout that whole process. But once you get on the other side, let me tell you, it's beautiful over there. But
Yeah.
it's really important to start understanding how to, how to do that. And so it's once you take away, and emotional alchemy is one of the rungs, and you can alchemize your trauma into wisdom. And
Mm.
by doing that, it's a matter of, disconnecting the emotional response with the memory. And once you can do that and disconnect that emotional response, and it stops affecting your life all the time, now your traumas become wisdom, and now you're smarter and wiser because of it. But if it's going to constantly affect your daily life, and it just, like I said, it just sits in our frontal lobe, and it affects our judgment, our decision making, our personality.
Mm.
It clouds the entire frontal lobe, which is what makes us human.
Mm.
So but it can be cleared up, and it can be healed.
Yeah.
It just takes effort.
Yes, it takes work. Yeah, and I mean it's interesting work because and I love that your analogy because a friend of mine broke a bone recently and they said actually the doctor said that when it um reheals that piece of bone will probably be stronger than it was before,
Mhm.
which is a nice analogy. But one of the things that you've mentioned already is shadow work, which is something that a lot of people don't know what that consists of or how you do your shadow work. So do you want to talk to me a little bit about that? Because shadow
Yeah, and
work
that's
is
yeah,
fun.
that's a very important one, and
Mm.
it's that's why it's the first one. It's kind of, like to get people introduced to their shadow, and to, to get people to know about it. So it's the shadow is a compilation of our traumas and limiting beliefs, kind of all tied in together, and it creates a side of us that is not so desirable. I like to say the shadow is the reactor, the sorcerer is the responder. So the shadow reacts to situations, and it can really cause a lot of issues. And I've kind of made the analogy that, if you're in a car, you can't kick the shadow out of the car. It has to be in the car, but
Mm.
it's either in the driver's seat, the passenger seat, or in the back seat, which is where you want it. The driver's seat, and I've had my shadow in each positions. So when I was in my 20s, the shadow was driving the car, and my life was a fucking dumpster fire. It was just awful. It was
Yes.
just it was just an absolute. I couldn't maintain jobs. I couldn't hold on an apartment. I couldn't. These are people that are, out on the streets. I've spent nights on park benches. I've spent nights in jails, and that was all from my shadow driving my car. And so it was completely in charge of my life. Then I got sober, and kind of I went the that was when I kind of went the Christian route, and kind of started it now moved to my passenger seat. So in the passenger seat, it's still too involved in, it's talking, and it's still too involved, and I was not able to hold down relationships. I couldn't, I didn't have a lot of understanding of people. I didn't have any direction in my life. I was just kind of I was sober and floundering. That shadow was still too involved in my life, and
Mm.
there's a lot of people out there with the passenger seat shadow, where because you can hold down a job, and you look like a normal functioning person, but the truth is you're kind of miserable in your downtime, and you can't have relationships, and you don't have any goals or drive in life, and that
Mm.
shadow is still involved. And now it's moved in the back seat, where it's I just check on it now and then, because it is still there. Everyone has a shadow. Um, it might be dormant, for some people that really haven't gone through a lot of tough stuff. It might be more dormant, but it's there, and it can rear out at any moment. So but it's important to not, fight the shadow. A lot of, people with like anger issues and stuff, that their shadow is driving their life. And if you get annoyed or angry at your shadow, well, now you're getting angry, and you're creating the same emotion that the shadow is creating itself, and it's not doing anything. So you
Mm.
have to learn to love the shadow. That's the key,
Yeah.
is to start to love it, and to start it's I it so mine I there's a lot of pop culture in my book. It's good to name the shadow, because it creates distance. You are not the shadow, you are the awareness of the shadow.
Hmm.
And so I've named mine Floyd, because in the movie True Romance, Quentin Tarantino, the Brad Pitt has a very small cameo character, where he just plays like this couch dweller of just this stoner. He just smokes weed every day. He doesn't leave the couch. The homeowner lets him stay there because he loves him like a brother. But the truth is he doesn't pay rent. He doesn't do chores. He just smokes weed all the day, and he's just on the couch. But the owner of the house loves him so much, he's not going to kick him out. He doesn't want to do that. He likes him, and he loves him. So I named my shadow Floyd, because he's the couch dweller. He's kind of the
Hmm.
stoner, like, couch dweller that doesn't add a lot to my life, but
Yeah.
I love too much to kick out. So
Yeah.
to have that kind of relationship with it is extremely healthy. But it's to
Yeah.
know it's there, and to be okay with it. It was created in a time of need, and it's okay that it's there. We just need to
Yeah.
have a relationship with it. That's the biggest thing.
You've reminded me, the couch thing, I think, of Michael Singer's book, Untethered Soul, where he explains when he had this kind of light bulb moment where he realized, I guess he had a sudden awareness of duality in the fact that there was the listener and the voice within him. And he describes it as like having a flatmate who's sitting on the couch next to you going, Christ, you're really shit at doing this, or you're like really criticizing you and just being down on everything, but he's just there all the time. And yeah, he reminded me of that because that is, I think, a really a fundamental part of this work is to understand that you don't, I mean, it's a very basic thing that's been said many times, but you are not your thoughts. And that flatmate Floyd character voice in your head that goes, come on, let's just go and do whatever, or you're really not very good at that, or how on earth do you think they're ever going to love you, or like, all of those horrible things that we say to ourselves
Mhm.
that you would never say in a million years to anybody else, and let alone anybody you didn't even like or care about. You just don't say those sort of things that you say to yourself, but you put up with it because there they are sitting on the couch next to you. You cannot escape them. They're just right there.
Yep.
So yeah, it's that dealing with the shadow. And I think, as far as I'm concerned, that work is very much around, under the bracket of self-love. It's like you have to learn to understand and love that voice and understand where it came from. A lot of people say treat it like a child, poor you, I get it. It's okay. Let's
Mhm.
have a, let's have a biscuit. Let's go to bed early.
Mhm.
And treating it
Yep.
sweetly so that it's you personify it. And I think giving it a name is genius.
Yeah, it creates some separation because it's important to know that you're not
You are
the
not
shadow.
it.
There's the divine in the shadow. I I'm a little bit Deepak and a little bit Tupac, right? Like it's because that's it, right? It's the shadow and the divine. There's two sides to us all, and that's I can't explain myself any better than that way. So, but it
Yeah.
is it's there and it's not going anywhere. But it's definitely become, the critic, can be alchemized into a cheerleader, and that's kind of what's happened with me. And there's that voice, that inner critic becomes less and less, and it starts to become the cheerleader, and kind of, you can do this, but it
Mm,
takes training, and you're rewiring your brain, you're rewiring your thoughts, and it's not easy. But you have to, the body will remember things, and once you've got your body memorized, like driving a car,
mm,
you don't have to know how to, you can just check out. You just drive the lights and the brakes, and you're not consciously thinking about any of that, because your
mm,
body knows how to drive that car. And so it's the same thing when kind of creating this transformation of new life. You have to, and when you first drive a car, you are consciously thinking about it. You're like, you've got the steering wheel tight, and you're like looking at the light, and you're like, it's one foot to do both the brake and pedal, and why is that? And like, there's all these, and it's hard in the beginning, but once you get your body memorized, that
mm.
the whole driving the car thing, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And so now you're on, every time you're in a car, you're on autopilot. Well, create that, the autopilot to a new, better life. And once you create that out, now your body's in charge, and you don't have to consciously think about it. And I always like to tell people, don't stop before the miracle happens. And the miracle happens when you have trained your body and mind to the point of success, joy, and happiness, and it comes naturally. Because for
Mm,
for the longest time, I had to train how to feel good. I had to make that, and that's where the meditation came in. It's like I could kind of escape reality, and go to that, connect to the future that I want, and bring that into the present, and just kept doing that over and over until it just kind of became, those thoughts and emotions just became natural,
mm,
and it just kind of, and so that's what I'm trying to get people to see, is that you can,
mm,
this it's hard, because there's a constant looping sequence of your world in front of you, and how you're feeling, and it's this looping sequence. And that's why so many people in, they call the ghetto in America the trap, and it becomes a trap, because your outside world is now affecting your inside world, and then your inside world is affecting your outside world. Nothing changes.
mm,
So to change, you have to first change the inside world, and to start getting familiar with those thoughts and emotions and feelings, and things do, and it takes a while. That, time isn't technically real, but we feel like it is. So it takes time for things on the outside to start changing. But they do. If you continue to do it and keep it up, things do start to change on the outside world once you've continued to do that. It's just very hard to do when your outside world is not matching, but then things start to change, and then that opposite looping sequence starts to happen. Now your outside world is matching how you feel on the inside, and it's feeding those thoughts even more. And that's how, the kind of rich get richer. And, that's how that
Yeah.
happens, is because
Yeah.
now and
They've
now they're seeing it, and now they know it's working, and now it's
yeah.
natural. And that's
Yeah.
when the miracle happens. Now it's
Yeah.
natural. And
Yeah.
so but it ain't easy. It ain't
No,
easy.
no, it's not easy. But I don't want to say that and be putting anybody off trying
Yeah,
because
no,
the
no.
journey is really interesting.
Oh, it's
You will
fascinating. Yeah.
learn so much about yourself. But I'm interested because you talk about, like, obviously you're saying like your trauma lives in the frontal lobe, and in my kind of world of the chakras, I'm like, your trauma lives in your body, it lives in your cells, and it lives, it could live in your back or it could live in your knees. Like, it shows up in different places in your body
Oh, sure.
energetically. Yeah. Um, so and that analogy of like it needs to feel like this work needs to feel like it's so natural as if you're driving a car, which everyone can understand, unless you don't drive, but you get the idea. So what was your physical, like what's the physical side of this work for you? Because I am a great believer that we try and think our way out of it. And yes, understanding and awareness is a huge chunk of this work. But then sometimes the brain just needs a bit of a break, needs a rest. Let the body take over, let the body kind of do the work. What's your version of that, if you have one?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it's health is wealth is the fourth rung, and that's focused on the body, because it is the mind, body, spirit. And
Yeah.
when one is suffering, the other two are going to suffer. When you
Mm-hmm.
feed one, you feed the other two. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that works. It is the mind, body, spirit, and you can
Okay.
pick one and it's going to feed the other two. So the body is a big one, and it's something, I love working out, and that makes me feel good. Yoga, I've really got into yoga every day now. For my yoga meditation routine, something happens to where, like, they have these apps now, which is wonderful. I can just do it in my living
Yeah.
room, and 20 or 30 minutes of yoga, and then 30 or 40 minutes of, that's something I do every single morning of yoga and then meditation. And I had read where yoga was invented 5,000 years ago as a precursor to meditation, so that you can
Yeah.
meditate better.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I'm just able to, something happens when that body is loose and it
Mm-hmm.
feels good.
Mm.
You can just drop right into a meditation, and just I can just get right there.
Yeah.
Not every day. There's days when things are up there, but I don't want to say it's just easy all the time, but it gets much easier. And yoga is much like, and meditation is much like the gym and treating your body, like when you kind of goes together. When you go into the gym for the first time, it's hard and it's difficult, but if with repeated times, it gets
Yeah.
easier and easier. And so your mind might feel like it weighs 400 pounds, but it's just, and the gym is the same way. You just need to, and nutrition, that's a big part of it. It's a huge part of it. Like, what are you putting into your
Yes.
body? And there's so many things out there that are so toxic, and from the nicotine, and even too much caffeine, and obviously alcohol is poison. It is poison.
Yeah.
So we can't be surprised we're not feeling too good if we're drinking several times a week. That's not shocking. I tell people, you cannot heal with the body and mind numb. So if you're
Mm.
truly serious about healing, and I'm not saying quit drugs and alcohol, or these, or like, live this super healthy life forever, but if you want to heal, it takes a year. It takes a good solid year to really get through, and start training and getting better. And I always recommend, just try to quit a lot of these things, because they're kind of, they're pain duckers, is what I call them, and they're not bad. And there's a lot of them, it's not the thing that's necessarily bad. It's the attachment to them that causes all the suffering. So the attachment to the alcohol, attachment to drugs, attachment to sex, gambling, there's just money addiction, working. There's so many things
Food.
that
Yeah.
we
There's a
we
lot of
attach,
addictions.
yeah, that we attach it to. And
Hmm.
so you know getting the body clear of a lot of these things is extremely important, to healing, and something that I've found is critical. Mind, body, spirit, all three need to be, there needs to be a focus and attention on all three, so that one feeds the other, and it just goes in that triangle.
Mm, yeah. No, I totally am. I'm with you absolutely all the way. I think this is, I'm really, uh, excited for people to get this book. So you're published, you're out there, you're on Amazon, you're readable, and you're going to be on your book's going to be an Audible book.
Hmm.
You're going to do an Audible soon, which that's definitely the way I'm going to go. What do you want to leave people with knowing about you and about this book? Because the sorcery element of it, like I can see the process and it's just so entertainingly put that I think that this is ideal for like young people. I don't know, that sounds really patronizing, so I apologize. But for people who don't want to read a heavy, big sort of, Deepak Chopra book or um, you know, Joe Dispenza book or something that's a bit too kind of heavy and scientific. Your book has just got everything that needs to be known to people who are just maybe new to it or this work or beginning to explore it, and those who just want to have a really good read but are into this kind of stuff. So tell me, how do you kind of tie up your book at the end? Because don't give away the ending because I'm sure it's got a fantastic car chase or something at the end. But how do you wrap it all up? What's your kind of summary, if you like?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I like to say, to people, picture your journey like the stock market. Okay. So the stock market has, started at very humble beginnings in the 1800s or something. And over time it's gone up, but there's been a lot of, downfalls, and day to day it
Crashes.
can go up and down. But over time it is consistently gone up. So it's a matter of perspective and kind of seeing that in the way it is. And I like to I started doing like spiritual Sherpa sessions, I like to say, with people and helping them along the way too. And the book is certainly there, and the audio will be out soon. I have the Instagram. I've been off for 4 years, but I have the Instagram back, and so that's been new to me. But it's sorcerer with a U underscore 13. And even if you can't like afford the book, I can send copies out that, like PDF, or I have some ebooks, and you can email me at sorcerer13 at Gmail. But it's one of the things I'm doing, is just trying to get out there and and help. And certainly that's one of the best things I like to say to people too is, I've lived a lot of my life living life like it's the last day, right? And I think that's terrible advice. I think, if it is my last day, I'm not going to get up and do my yoga and meditation. I might go to a pharmacy and rob them for pills. I don't know. It's my last
Yeah.
day. Who
Yeah, yeah,
cares?
who cares? Yeah, exactly. No,
Who
you're so
cares?
right. It's
It's
really
it's
bad
it's such a
advice.
terrible advice. So instead of last day, live life like it's your first day. Now it's your first day. Now
Yes.
you've got kind of that childlike curiosity about the world. And if it's your first day, you're kind of in it for the long haul. It's like, all right, I'm here for a while, so I better, make this good and make
Yeah.
today count. And
Yeah.
that childlike curiosity is critical, for our perspective and mental and emotional health, and start getting curious about
Mm.
everything. And that really changes, that has changed a lot in my life, certainly. So that's one of the little tidbits I love to leave with people, is like,
Yeah.
try living life like it's your first, because living life like it's your last isn't it's not good advice. It's not good advice. It's one of those things. There's a lot of bad advice out there. Like, you gotta have some discernment. Sorcerer has discernment. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
that doesn't sound right to me. All right.
I love that. It's so true. So, well, you've given everybody the name of the book, which you can get on, Amazon and all those places, and your email address. I will try and remember to put your email address in case people actually want to get in touch with you, um, in the show notes, so that. But I really hope that people get a flavour of, um, A, how much I love Justin's book, and B, how much he has to offer in this book, because I really did. Am enjoying it. I'm in the middle of reading it, but I'm really enjoying it. It's a really fresh take on everything. It's a fresh perspective, which I think is always a good thing, because this healing world of ours, fantastic and valuable and exciting and infinite as it is, can always have new voices and new flavors. And I think you bring a really interesting one. So thank you.
Very, yeah, very different. Yeah, I like to say, I like to take all the people that you mentioned, Chopra and Dispenza, and I listen to all that, and then I transfer it into terms that I'd understand and add some humor into it. So it is very different, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's out there.
It is. It is. It's wonderful. It is out there in both ways, both senses. So thank you, Justin. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
Okay.